Hi, welcome to Joey's Hi-Fi Shop. Today we're doing a quick video about phono preamps. And Rega is known for their phono preamps, and it's something that they've always included in their integrated amplifiers and in most of their preamps that they made over the years. There are on their higher end integrated amplifiers like the Rega Ethos, it does not come with a phono preamp. And oftentimes some people that purchase Rega turntables will, use them with other amplifiers. You don't have to just use Rega. And so they'll want a external phono preamp. And what this refers to is on the turntable with the cartridges, the little cartridges that you see, they are going to either be moving magnet or moving coil. And what that means is that the little stylus that reads the grooves will either have magnets on it that is moving, and there's stationary coils, and that's what's creating the signal, or you'll have coils hooked up to the stylus and you'll have stationary magnets, and that will be creating the signal. And so there's two different kinds of circuitry that amplify a moving magnet or a moving coil. And so typically you'll get two different kinds of phono preamps. You'll get a moving magnet phono preamp or a moving coil. Now you can also get preamplifiers that have both, and there's like little buttons or a switch. Rega actually makes one called the Rega Aria, which is a step above the two I have here today, and is a great preamp. The only thing about it is that it's, for someone that's just starting out, it's quite expensive. It costs about as much as a Rega P3. So it's probably not the first thing you will buy when you buy a Rega P1, 2, or 3. But you may want to get a phono preamp if you're using a different amplifier, or if you're looking to use a moving coil on your Rega, say all the way from P8 to P6 to P3. In those scenarios, sometimes people will start with a Rega Fono MC, and when I say phono, like typically it's spelled P-H-O-N-O for a phono section, but Rega has a little bit of fun with it, and they call it the Rega Fono, F-O-N-O. So these are both vintage Rega preamps. This is a Rega Fono, so that means it's moving magnet. This is a Rega Fono MC. That means that it's set up for moving coil. And so typically on these preamps, you'll just have a button that you turn on and off. And on the back, you'll see a phono input and then a line output. And so on here it says input output. So you will plug your turntable in here and you'll plug this up to your amplifier, and then typically it has a little bit of power input. And what this does is it takes that little signal and it does the RIAA equalization and then brings it up to line level. And on this phono preamp, it's pretty much the same, except you will notice some dip switches and some information about what those dip switches do. And you'll notice it'll say loading and resistance, capacitance, and gain. And what you'll do with those dip switches is that if you're using this with a Rega MC, typically you can use the default settings, but you can also mess with the loads a little bit, and you can look up the settings for your moving coil cartridge, especially if you're using a different brand of cartridge. You can go in and tweak the settings to make sure that they're matching specifically to your moving coil cartridge. So I wanted to go over these because this is something that often comes up early on for someone that's interested in hi-fi, whether it's at the entry level or at the most high-end level. Rega does make a high-end phono section that costs over $5,000, and some people might be like, wow, like why would that cost so much, or why would you have a piece that's just dedicated to the amplification of your phono cartridge at such a high price range and such a dedication to it? And the answer is that these signals that come in are very low signals. and the way you amplify them and the delicacy that you take electronically and in terms of how the circuitry is laid out and the power supplies, they all make a very big difference. One of the inherent things about these two enclosures themselves is that their power supplies are connected at the wall. So their power supply is a little, what they call wall wart, or just a little AC to DC adapter, and it has a little wire that connects into here. So the actual power supplies are moved. And so on the larger units, you're going to find that the power supply is inside, so they then tend to move it away from the amplification, the pre-amplification circuitry. And so it's, you know, there's a whole other layer to when you get up into high-end cartridges and high-end turntable and phono sections. And when we get a Rega Aura is what it's called, A-U-R-A, in, and a Rega Naya with a Felion 2 cartridge, which will hopefully happen in the next couple of months. We can then go over like the higher end versions of these. But for most people, I would say 90% of listeners typically just need a Rega Fono moving magnet section or a Fono moving coil section. And the nice thing about these vintage pieces is that you can pick them up relatively inexpensively, and you can also get a new one. And the newer one will sound better than these older ones, but these older ones will also sound great. So a couple $100 for these, you know, a couple $100 for the new ones. Most people I know that were going to buy a new Rega P3 are probably going to buy the new phono sections. But if you're looking to just get started, or you're not worried about having the latest and greatest, you know, a used Rega phono section, a vintage Rega phono section is perfectly fine, and something that I recommend to try out if you haven't ever tried out a Rega phono section. They're really, really great. So thank y'all so much for listening to this little video about these Rega phono sections and just thinking about phono sections in general. And the other thing that I get asked a lot is a Rega phono, whether it's a new one or say a vintage one like this, better than, you know, the phono section that's in the Rega Illicit behind me, or better than a Rega Mira, which is a vintage piece, integrated amplifier that's built in? And typically what I tell people is yes, but at that level of change, I would just save up and buy a Rega Aria. The phono section that, you know, that's the step up above this, it'll have both a moving magnet and moving coil section, so you'll be able to switch between cartridges if that's something you want to upgrade to at some point. And you will hear a huge difference. It will be huge if you upgrade to an MM or well, really the MM is what you would be upgrading to from a phono section on a Rega integrated. They don't really have MCs built in. You're going to hear some difference, but it's going to be huge on an Aria. So kind of wanted to also address that, because that's another question that gets asked a lot. So thank y'all so much for watching. I will continue to put out more videos, and I hope y'all have a great day.